Good afternoon. Welcome to the November edition of the Pinal County Community College Governing Board meeting, located here in beautiful Superstition Mountain campus. We are especially loving the door over there with the window. You all can't see, but we're watching it rain. Isn't that nice? We're going to call our meeting to order, and we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Miller, would you lead us, please?
Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to take just a second, if I might, and call your attention to the flag that we just saluted. Years and years ago, I had the opportunity when I was living in Mexico to go through a museum that we just happened to pass and didn't even know it was there. Walked in, and there was an old a United States flag, a battle flag, torn, ripped, blood-stained, hanging on the wall. Found out that museum was the site of the Battle of Churubusco in the Mexican-American War. I'm not talking about the politics of that war. There were good people on both sides that were killed, wounded. It was a difficult time. But every time I pledge allegiance to the flag, I see that image in my mind, and it reminds me of the great challenges that freedom brings, and to obtain it and to keep it. I love the flag. I love America. And I love to pledge allegiance to the flag. Thank you for letting me say that. We're going to get into the business. Next item is the call to the public. Did anyone sign up for call to the public? No items from that, so we will now go into the consideration of the consent agenda. All items listed on the agenda with an asterisk are consent matters, unless they are removed from the consent agenda at this time by any board member. Any item that is removed will be discussed separately and apart from the consent motion. With that stated, what is the pleasure of the board concerning the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Have a second. Discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote on the consent agenda. Those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda with one motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by saying nay? Thank you very much. Motion is approved unanimously. Next item on the agenda is policies for first reading. Bandy Bain.
Good afternoon, Governing Board President Gibson, Governing Board members, President Elliott, Mary Lou, staff, students, and guests. This afternoon, I present to you the first reading of the following two policies. We have a revision to our hours of work policy, as well as a new policy, assessment for prior learning. This reading is for your review only, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you. Questions relative to the policy for first reading? Does not appear to be any questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next item is reports. We are going to move then to the report from the Central Arizona College President, Dr. Elliott.
Thank you, President Gibson, Governing Board members, faculty,
and staff here today with us. A couple things I would like to highlight, in particular, the annual Vaquero Awards ceremony that was held last Saturday evening with over 100 guests in attendance, very well attended, as we celebrated Lucinda Boyd as the outstanding alumni this year, and Mike Gray was inducted into the Vaquero Hall of Fame. So that was a really nice event that was put on by our institutional development office, Maggie Dooley. Also, I want to announce that the college has been accepted into the Caring Campus project hosted by the Institute for Evidence-Based Change. This is a grant-funded, the Institute of Evidence-Based Change has grant funding. They were going to award it, select 20 colleges to participate. We applied and we were fortunate enough to be accepted. The objective of this project, it's quite unique in its design, is to increase student retention and success by creating and cultivating a caring campus environment through the intentional inclusion of all staff in student success efforts. And in particular, so all employees at various different levels will be involved in helping develop the caring campus. This project has been in place for a couple years now, and many colleges have implemented it and seen tremendous results from this project. And then the last thing I would like to remind you about the holiday open house that we have on December 4th from 2 to 5 in the president's office, and faculty and staff really do enjoy the opportunity to interact with board members more informally at that event. So that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Elliott relative to her report? Thank you very much. Next item of business is the Business Affairs Report. Chris Watka.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and governing board members, Madam President, Madam Board Secretary, and colleagues and any guests in attendance today. We have 3 reports today for information. First one is the monthly budget report. We also have the awarded bids and the intergovernmental agreements. So starting with the monthly budget report, included in your packet is information through September of 2019, which is the first quarter of our new fiscal year. The general fund expenditures are at 18.65% of the total budget, and this is a slight increase of 0.77 of 1% from 2018, which was at 17.88. So being that we've completed the first quarter, I'd like to show the financials numbers and on the graphs on the big screen this afternoon. Ooh, and that's difficult to read, but you have the numbers in your packet as well. The first one is the operating funds. This is a snapshot of all of our revenues and expenditures, actual, budget, and prior year actuals as compared to budget. You'll see now that we've caught up with the tuition and fees from the old system and the new system, so we have a more comparable September to September review of our tuition and fees. And you'll see also all the expenditures are pretty much in line now as well. So as I mentioned earlier, we're at about 18.65% of the budget compared to 17.89 of last year. This next slide shows us the 2019 actuals compared to the previous year to date. See, pretty much online. The next one is graphs showing the revenue categories. That shows the current year, the previous year, along with the budget. The budget is the line in purple. So pretty much in line with all of our major revenue categories. And the next one is same information but with the expenditures. So once again, the purple is the budget for our main expenditures, benefits, salaries, and all the other operating expenditures. This next item is a report of all the auxiliary funds, and this also now is caught up in terms of a September to a September snapshot picture. Once again, these are all the numbers, and we also have all the corresponding graphs for our auxiliary funds. Revenue and expenses. Be happy to answer any questions on the financials through the first quarter ended of September 30th, 2019.
Yes, please, Mr. Walter.
On the chart you have for the operating fund revenue categories, the property tax revenue is lagging behind last year. Is that because of the percentage difference in the year we've gone through? Or?
A little of that, plus it's been a little behind. Slightly behind. Slightly behind in terms of recording the revenues.
And then I noticed too that the state appropriations is like doubled from the same time period last year.
We received a slight increase. We received the additional one-time monies, the $1.7 million. Now, we didn't receive all of it in one time, but that's an extra pot that came in the first quarter.
Bless her heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for your report.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
The next item is the bids. We just have 2 this month. First one is for interpreting services, and that's to Arizona Freelance Interpreting Services out of Gilbert, Arizona, in amount of $22,923, and that is to purchase interpreting services for the entire district. And the last one is the Central Plant Electrical Transformers, JMAC Electric LLC out of Tucson, Arizona, $189,523, and that was to replace some of the old transformers and the power distribution center at the central plant on the main campus. Any questions on the 2 bids?
No questions.
Okay. And a third and final report is a listing of all the intergovernmental agreements. This list is from January 1st, so from the calendar year, through October 31st of 2019. There are a number of them there. There are two full pages. Be happy to answer any questions you may have, but we do present this typically on an every 6-month basis. We've lagged a couple months on this report. We'll get back to speed on presenting every 6 months. Any questions on the IGAs that we've engaged in?
No questions. We will digest it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Guided Pathways Progress Report. Nicole Stiles.
Good afternoon, Governing Board President Gibson, Governing Board members, President Elliott, Mary Lou, staff, students, and guests. My name is Nicole Costales, and I am presenting on behalf of the Effective Entry team. On the first slide we have up here right now, you will see we have a much longer team name. It's the Streamlined Effective Entry, Removing Barriers to Enrollment and Advisement, but we just call ourselves Effective Entry, and a list of all of our team members that I've had the pleasure to work with over the last 10 months or so. Oops. So the team has reviewed CAC's current onboarding process to determine obstacles and roadblocks students may encounter as they enter the college and move towards enrollment and advisement. At the same time, the team has also reviewed best practices and research from the American Association of Community Colleges, the Community College Resource Center, schools who have implemented guided pathways, and other national trends. The overall end goal for the team is to ensure students have clear information and processes up front so they can make informed decisions on program options, finances, and all necessary resources prior to enrollment. The team wants students confident that they are on the right path from the start at CAC and ultimately complete a program or transfer. So this is a very big endeavor that this team has been working on. So we started to create some smaller goals, and that's what we have listed up here. And I'm going to talk about these briefly. We did the research, and we've kind of come up with an outline, and the last step is the approval process when we start showing these to our colleagues. And the first one is review the admissions application. We want to make it a quicker and easier process to apply to CAC. The team actually applied to 25 different community colleges to see what other schools have been doing and have taken notes. We've had some interesting ones, some good ones, some bad ones, some things we do want to do and want to add, some we definitely don't want to add. The next thing is we talked about on the website, how can we reach the most students and get the most information out there to begin with across the campuses? And this is kind of a start here on the front of the website to move students to the next thing identify types of students. We've seen several schools do this where they list out the different types of students and it identifies the steps for each different group because they might be very similar, but there's slight differences between the groups. So a transfer student may have to turn in a couple different documents or do a couple different processes that a brand new student doesn't have to do. We like this because it's not just for the student, but it's for families that are helping their students apply or guidance counselors or sometimes staff that don't work in student services. They can go to this place and say, hey, this is what you would do next. So it's kind of one-stop area where they can see exactly what each student needs to do. From there, we have clarified payment options. So we have a team that's working on how do we get payment options up front. We always tell students that they have to pay after they register, but how do we get that information up front and make sure they're doing the FAFSA and they know that there's other options. There's scholarships, payment plans, and all the different tools that this college has to support the students in this process. A couple more. The next one is determine area of interest assessment. This is called, we looked at different assessments, and this one is My Majors. And it's about a 10 to 15 minute assessment that is free for students, that all students can do up front as they enter the college. It basically, we can ask them questions that we determine so we can gather information, because one of the things we learned with the AACC Institute is we have to know our students. So this is a great way to gather some data and some information about our students and some of the needs that they need as they enter the college. After they answer these questions, it will go into an assessment that will actually align them with the areas of interest that CAC has designed. So a student will do this assessment, and it will take them right to the areas of interest website with the college so the students can connect with their results from the assessment to what CAC has to offer for the students. In conjunction with that, we've been working with the area of interest in the mapping team, so how we can align the website to the new maps, this assessment, and all the information and make it one easy process. We want to reduce the clicks, have consistent format, and emphasize the pathways. And the last thing is define CAC terminology. We really want to look at student-friendly language and new terminology, because now we're saying areas of interest and pathways. And we thought we'd have a nice little area where we have all this terminology that we've been talking about, and with the Caring Campus, we might have some additional terminology. The Effective Entry team is starting this process, but it is going to be shared with the other teams to add, and also with the Caring Campus initiative. So when we learn all these new terminologies, we're all saying the same things when we're talking to students. So we're at the process now. We did a lot of work in the beginning. We started meeting in January, and we worked really hard until July, and we kind of had a little bit of break where the other teams were kind of all aligning. So we're in the approval process for some of these items. The team is going to recommend how we can streamline the entry process for students, provide the clear information up front, and remove barriers to enrollment and advisement. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Good program. I love it.
Thank you.
I do have a question, if I might.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm very interested in how you went about aligning, or in the process of aligning, the website with the areas of interest. That seems to be would be a challenge to make sure that the information was comprehensive without increasing the number of clicks. Could you just kind of walk us through how that takes place?
Sure. We're in the process of creating a visual to show people. Right now, when you go to the divisions and programs, that's going to be called areas of interest. And we haven't, I'll tell you, if you guys in the room can keep this a secret, because we haven't told everybody yet this is coming, because we want to have it all nice and pretty. But the divisions and programs is going to be called areas of interest. And from there, they have their pathways. So all the programs that are aligned. So they click areas of interest in the pathways. And then we have a template that's going to be consistent. So the first 4 areas of the template are going to be the same on all pathways. So the first is going to be the program map. That's the first thing that's going to show up for the students. The next may be the program information. This is detailed program information they want the students to know. The third is contact. It might have the advisor's name that's assigned to that area and a way to connect with them to schedule an appointment. And it could have the faculty members' names as well to follow up for more information. And then I'm trying to remember what the fourth one was going to be. We're looking at standard, and then the divisions can have additional links as well for additional information they need, because we do know how some programs have application processes, but we really want it to be 3 clicks where they go areas of interest, pathway, and get to their map, and then they can read the rest of the information.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you.
I'm very interested in how this is going forward. This is really interesting. All right, monitoring reports. Dr. Gilliland, are you leading off today?
Okay, good afternoon, President Gibson, members of the board, Dr. Elliott, colleagues, students, and guests. The monitoring report today, it's outcome 3. It's all about workforce, about skills acquisition, and about the experience of our students after they leave the college. So let me find where we go here. So outcome 3.1 is about the percentage of graduates that are employed. And this is particularly students who are in the skilled trades or the direct employment areas, healthcare. And what we find in this outcome is that we have an increase in the number of students who are employed directly after graduation. And let me see if the next one, but we're also measuring in this, not just are they employed, but are they employed in their field of study? And what we find is that there has been, let's see, is that the next one? No. Okay, that's not on there. So we're looking at the percentage employed and then the percentage employed in the area of training. And what we find is that the number of employed is trending upwards. We are not quite at our, at the goal. But we are trending in that direction. But we find also that the number of graduates employed in their area has trended down just a little bit. So more employed right after graduation, a little bit fewer in the actual area for which they were trained. And we can interpret that in many ways, but I think I'll just leave it at that for right now rather than guessing at the causes. 3.2 is the percentage of occupational programs where graduates earn industry-recognized credentials. And again, we've had an increase at Central Arizona College from 2016-17 to the 2017-18 year, where in the previous period there were 82% of our graduates in skilled trades and health careers who earned industry-recognized credentials, and it's gone up to 95%. Our goal is 100%. We have been consistently just a little bit below the national average, but really just a tiny little bit, and we definitely have trended upward in all of this. So we're going in the right directions. For 3.3, this is kind of a new report for us. We actually have been doing partnership surveys for quite a long time. In our older surveys, we asked our partners, our stakeholders about their relationships with Central Arizona College. In the spring of 2019, we added a question about their satisfaction with our graduates as employees. The board set a target of 80%, and we actually achieved 85% satisfaction, which is really very good. And I was actually thinking of one of our board members. This is one of those reports where being over the goal is actually a good thing. We don't want to bring that back down, so that's positive. In our outcome 3.4, we're looking at the FTSE, at the actual enrollment in occupational courses. We are, again, a little bit below our goal. We are trending upwards. We had a bit of a dip in the previous period, in the 2017-18 year. And again, I don't want to speculate why that is, but we are, again, moving in the correct direction. We are still a little bit below that target that we would like to achieve and below the national average, or below the average, excuse me, of Arizona community colleges, rural community colleges. And then finally, we're looking at workforce training, and we don't have a graph here for you. This is an area where the college is in transition. We've moved our workforce training from an area directly under workforce development to more over to the employment, the areas where they're being trained. So we're reorganizing the way we're doing this, but we're making a lot of great efforts in terms of providing both non-credit training, both for our partners in education and also for small businesses and others in the community. So hopefully we'll have some data next time around for that. I just want to highlight a couple of our, a couple of our significant improvements and our planned improvements. You have quite a long list that you can review yourselves, but just in general, some of our most significant improvements in recent years have been just much stronger industry partnerships. And these are particularly with our SUNT program, which you've heard a lot about, but also shout out to SMC, to this campus, and to our new partnership with Wilson Electric, which began this year and is really taking off and doing well. So we expect that to be something that's very positive for our students and our communities. We have recently hired a new dean over these areas, and we have a new director in the skilled trades, and so we think that those are going to make a difference. And we also have a new apprenticeship grant where we are working as partners with Pima Community College, but trying to expand our already growing apprenticeship programs. And that should make a difference. And then finally, we also have a new skilled trades program out at Aravaipa. It's not a new program, it's welding, but we have extended it out to the Aravaipa campus, and that is taking off and doing very well. So those are really important improvements that have been brought on board recently. We're looking at doing a heavy equipment programming with Pascua Yaqui. We are looking at exploring some new programs in the health careers and other professions. And we also have some one-time state funding for the fiscal year 2021, which we are in the early stages of planning for. And those will all be in these areas where students will go into direct employment. So we're very excited about those possibilities. So I'll conclude there and take any questions.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Odeon.
Could I take you back to 3.1 for a minute?
Sure.
We're accounting for about 70% of graduates. What do we know about the other 30%? Are those people who haven't responded to the survey? Are they still in school somewhere else? Who are they?
Well, one of the difficulties is actually in tracking our students who are no longer with us. When we have our transfer students are easier to track because we have several databases we can plug into, especially the National Clearinghouse, but also in Arizona Assist. We don't have that possibility with our graduates who have completed and moved on to employment. So we are relying on a lot of methods, and we've actually begun a phone calling campaign this last year to try to better track our graduates. So we are doing all sorts of things to reach out to them. Some of them simply don't respond. Their phone numbers change. We don't have an email address that's current, and so we are hoping to get those responses going forward.
So for the most part, that 30% is people we just don't know.
Exactly. We just don't know what they're doing. There's a very good chance that they're employed, and there's a very good chance that some of them are actually employed in their fields.
Thank you. On 3.2, you said that we've been trending below the national average. But as I look at the chart, it appears we're actually above the national average in 2 of the 3 years presented.
So, yeah, let me clarify that. The national average, what we are aiming for is that 100% of our occupational graduates are graduates who are in professions or going straight into the workforce, that 100% of them have earned an industry credential. So we have more in terms of sheer number, but we have a slightly smaller number who have earned an industry certified credential. Industry recognized credential. So the national average is, although there are only 80%, 83%, there's 100% who are at the, I'm sorry. I am misreading that. Excuse me. That is an 83% at the national average. So yeah, we're actually pretty much on target, but we're not at the 100% who have the industry recognized credentials.
But we are above the
That's
national
my error.
average
I apologize for that.
Years.
Yeah. And we're definitely going up with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was misreading those numbers.
Other questions?
I have a couple.
Yes, please, Mr. Miller.
All right, so I've been seeing a lot of advertising, a lot of marketing going on, especially in our 50th year anniversary, mostly geared toward students. Are there any programs that you could discuss that focus on maybe the employers? Let them know that we have, employable, ready students graduating, this summer. Any programs like that?
I don't know of a specific campaign, but we do have very good relationships with our local employers. We reach out in a variety of ways. We have people who sit on a variety of workforce and other community-based groups. But we also work directly with those employers that we are partnered with SUNT and with Resolution Copper and with our new Wilson Electric and some of the others. And then we reach out to those in our communities, Abbott and many others who are around us, Frito-Lay, and we let them know we're in constant communication with them about our graduates, about our programs. We do bring them in for some summer programming with our up-and-coming students and with the middle school and high schoolers that we do every summer. Our healthcare students are out in clinical placements, and so they are interacting regularly with our employers within the area in their clinical settings. And so I believe that communication is strong, but we don't have a single point of contact that reaches out to them. It's really through the programs themselves and through the professors and through the people who work directly with the students in those areas.
So as a follow-up, would you say that those interactions are mostly reactive, where word of mouth are coming to us and say, I hear you're doing something with SUNT, or are we actually soliciting involvement with the employers?
We are soliciting involvement. Actually, Dr. Elliott is key in much of this in interfacing with the community, but many of us, I think, have direct relationships with those employers. And let me just give a little example. Here at the SMC campus, we have our radiography program, and for every graduating cohort, the director of the program invites in members of the employment community. They do mock interviews, and a very large percentage of the students come to graduation with jobs in hand. They actually get real jobs out of the mock interviews. They turn into real interviews. So we have many, many programs like that within each of those areas. So we could probably put together a list for you of the kinds of things we do. I just don't think we've done that in one concentrated area yet, but that could be a good exercise for us.
I don't think it hurts to brag.
I think that's a great idea.
I think, if I might add, our programs will invite employers in to interview the students and talk to the students. And probably in about 90% of the cases, our students are offered a job before they even finish at CAC through that interpersonal interactions. But I hear what you're saying. There could potentially be a marketing campaign for employers around that very fact, is that they're employed prior, usually before they even graduate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And then the second question, I'm familiar with the mechanics behind this, but maybe you could just kind of highlight the role the advisory committees have, especially in like advanced, how they keep the college in tune with what is a credential, a recognized credential, et cetera. How do we stay, synchronous with what the needs are?
Okay, great question. So all of these programs have advisory committees that include members of the workforce, the members of the profession, and also some other educators. And those advisory committees meet minimally once per year. Some of them meet twice every semester. And essentially the program does a sort of a mini self-study each time they do an advisory meeting. They present all of their results in terms of, new curriculum, changes they may have made, improvements in things, outcomes such as board exams or certifications, how the students are doing. So they do solicit feedback. We are not ever going to go into a meeting like that and not be prepared to present about the correct national certification. That's information that our professionals, our professors in the area, and our directors gather as they go along, so we know that we are preparing people for the correct exams and the correct certifications. And we do stay abreast as part of our job with what those requirements are. So that's something we're constantly doing, but the advisory committees can give us feedback about, maybe small changes in the job market or something that's going on at their particular workplace, or make some recommendations to us about how to carry out a particular thing. But as much as anything, they're there for that community relationship and for some checks and balances.
Right, and as a comment, the byproduct or benefit of that, we kind of hide in the consent agenda, but it's all the curriculum changes that happen. I'm sure a lot of that is in response to what the advisory committees are telling the college is needed for our workforce of the future.
Right. Actually, that is a very interesting observation, and you will be seeing some changes in what you see with the curriculum because we have realized that we don't need to bring absolutely every course with a tiny modification forward. You will continue to see all of the big changes in programs, and those are very important and really require the board approval. But yes, we do see some of those small changes or even some of the bigger changes are definitely in response to changes in the workplace, changes in the requirements. We recently went through a very large change, and this was actually bringing on a new program with the industrial technology. This was part of our corridor project, and we agreed on a single name across the board. We revamped some older curriculum to bring them into line with the certifications, and so all of those recently went forward in the curriculum. That was exactly what you were seeing. So I would say the majority of those changes for all of those areas of study are in response to the workplace.
All right. Well, thank you for the efforts and as well as everyone involved.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions? One more. Okay.
Just a little bit.
Okay, sure.
Excuse me. I was going to check my colleagues first to see if there are any follow-up questions. I think it's exciting that employers are coming and interviewing our students and offering them a job before they graduate. Is it more often than not that the job offers are consistent with them finishing their degree and their certificate, or do they take them before graduation?
That's a great question. I think the majority of them want them at the completion of the project, but we do have students who go to work while they're still completing.
Sure.
There are some, sometimes there's high need, and especially now that we have apprenticeship programs in some of our areas, and so there's some overlap with that where the students are doing apprenticeship training, and they may just ease right into a job. But
sure.
In general, that actually provides greater support for the students to complete the program because they're
Absolutely.
not only getting support from us, they're getting support from the employer who really does want them to finish.
How does that affect our monitoring report then on graduation and completion rates?
That is a very good question. I think we would still count them as obtaining employment on graduation, even if it's a little bit beforehand, because they're graduating, we're surveying them, and we're getting that feedback.
If I might add, it's already captured because many of these programs have what we call stackable credentials.
Oh, that's also true.
Where students can get a certificate at 18 hours, 30 hours, or the full 60. And so many of those stackable credentials are embedded in the full Associate of Applied Science program. So even if a student leaves, we count that certificate that they've completed. And that's captured in the degrees and certificates awarded.
Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Gillen.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else underneath that agenda item? Dr. Cardenas, did you have anything you wanted? No wonder you're looking so relaxed tonight. All right. Next item on the agenda is calls to the board. Are there any comments that the members of the board would like to make at this time?
I would, yes.
Mr. Walter.
And I know everybody knows this, but because this is our first board meeting since the award ceremony, our very own Gladys Christensen is Community College Trustee of the Year by the National Association. So, congratulations. Dr. Elliott and I were going through all the parameters to see, trying to figure out if she had won before they made the announcement. We were calculating where the tables were sitting and things like that, and worked. Anyway, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're all excited for Gladys, and thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate that. She did very well in her acceptance speech. She gave credit to everybody else but to her and her accomplishments, and so we were very humbled to have her receive that award. It's very prestigious, and it is tough competition, and she aced it out, so we're excited for her.
It was all Mary.
Other
Lou,
comment?
actually.
Any comment that you'd like to make, Gladys, in your defense?
It was all Mary Lou. But thank you all.
Thank you. Are there any other items that any of the members of the board would like to report on? If not, I have one. I'm very excited about the way that the college across all of the campuses are using social media as a way to recruit and to get the message of the college out to the general public. Most recently, I reviewed a video on YouTube that had to do with the rodeo team and the Get Up Challenge. And I was thinking to myself, what is the educational opportunity here? And it occurred to me, this is recruitment. They're looking out, trying to reach out to colleagues across the country to come join a very elite team. And I was really excited. I'm excited about that. That's fun. And I look forward to seeing more videos, not just from the rodeo team, but across the venue. It was in the midst of this video, they showed the members of the team doing various rodeo activities like roping, like goat tying, and barrel racing. And in the process, they looked like professionals in what they were doing, and that's exciting. That gets a very positive message out. Thank you to all of those who support not only the rodeo club and the rodeo team, but also the entire set of campuses and the social media impact that we're having across the country. Thank you. With that said, our next board meeting will be the January 21st, 2020 at Signal Peak Campus, and I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.